These are the 10 things you need to know when moving from New York to Hawaii. Number 1, lifestyle. The most views you're going to have in New York are probably at the top of the Empire State Building, but Hawaii is surrounded by beauty, from magical waterfalls to the ocean to the snorkeling, scuba diving, hiking, the erupting of Mauna Kea and Big Island. All of these things you're going to see probably on a daily basis if you live here, which also means your lifestyle, your activity level, and more than likely your health level are going to be a lot higher. Hawaii has one of the highest ranking longevity scores of all of the states, and it's partly because of our healthy lifestyle. We spend a lot more time doing things that a lot of people on the mainland don't necessarily do. However, with that being said, you're not gonna have skiing, you're not gonna have snowboarding. We get 0 inches of snow every single year. We also get pretty close to the same amount of rain, but the activities that you're doing here are gonna lead to a better lifestyle for you. Now, New York does get a fair amount of sunny days, 224 to be exact, and Hawaii actually averages 271 sunny days per year, while New York gets 47 inches of rain, Honolulu gets 48. So pretty close amounts, but here the weather's a little different. It doesn't just rain all day. We get rain throughout the day most days, but in small short bursts. It'll rain for 5 minutes or 10 minutes and then it's gone. And if you're on the windward side of the island, places like Caluya, Kaneohe, Waimanalo, even parts of North Shore, the Ko'olau mountain range will actually trap a ton of those clouds and it's going to be really wet. Whereas on the other side, more like Waianae, Kapolei, Ewa Beach, Makakilo, it's a lot drier. The weather's warmer, it's less humid, and you're going to get a lot less rainy days on that side too. Lastly, in the wintertime, that's when New York will get all of their snow. Here in Hawaii, that is our rainy season. That's also typically when we get hurricanes, if we do get something like that. And so there's been a couple of hurricane scares, and unfortunately we haven't been hit by a strong hurricane in quite a number of years. Number 3, getting a job. Now, Hawaii has a lot of opportunities, especially in the medical field has been growing tremendously. Veterinarian field has been growing tremendously, especially compared to New York. And one benefit compared to New York City, at least, we have a lower cost of living index, meaning $9,200 is worth about $7,600 in Honolulu. The same money that you make here on island is actually going to go a little bit further than places like New York City. Now, however, New York is a very large state. There's a lot of places. You have upstate, you have the city, you have all kinds of little towns that go with it. So I'm comparing it to New York City right now, but know that if you're on the outskirts, that's going to change just a little bit. Now, a really common question we get is it easy to get a job in Honolulu? And the answer is yes and no. First of all, it's difficult to get a job here if you're not already on island. Nobody wants to hire somebody that's going to supposed to come visit and stay here, especially if they're not from here. You need to physically be present, and you're going to need to meet these employers before they're going to want to offer you a job. And that's a really hard thing for a lot of people because they want to make sure that their job is lined up before they actually arrive on island. So making sure that, one, if you're in a field that is in high demand here, especially the medical field, and there's also a lot of construction related fields that do really well here. For example, if you are a contractor or a carpenter and you have a business, you're going to do extremely well here. And if you're working here as a carpenter, reach out to me. We need new contractors and carpenters on a daily basis. Now, if you're in something that's very specialized, more likely than in tech or certain other things, it's going to be a lot more difficult to find you a position out here, which is why a lot of people will come here and work or do that kind of nomad life, but they're going to be working remotely, not necessarily here for Hawaii or on island. Number 4, one of the more challenging things is the actual move from New York to Honolulu. There's a lot of things to pay attention to, so I'm going to bring you through all of them. Number 1, and the more challenging, is getting your pets here. There's certain vaccinations, there's quarantine, and there's certain types of things that you have to do, process, to get your dog or cat over here on island. A lot of pets are not allowed, and you won't be allowed to bring them. So make sure that you are allowed to bring the actual pet you have. We'll have a link below showing you where you can find out. Number 2, the actual cost of the move itself. So of course you're going to need plane tickets. If you're bringing more than just a suitcase, you're going to need the cost of moving. Moving your personal items from New York to Honolulu is at minimum about $4,000, going all the way up to $80,000 depending on the size of the household. But a small studio, you're going to be looking at probably close to $5,000 to $10,000 just to get all of your belongings shipped to island, packaged, and safely arrive. You're also looking at anywhere from $1,000 to $2,000 to ship your vehicle to Hawaii, which is why a lot of people will sell their vehicle on the mainland and then buy something here. Point number 5, price of homes and price of rent. Your average single-family home is going to be looking at around $850 to $1 million for a purchase price. A condo starting price point is around $300,000 all the way up. Now, there are some cheaper options and, of course, more expensive options depending on what part of the island you are on. For example, if you're looking to rent, you're going to be looking around $1,500 to $2,000 for a studio to 1-bedroom depending on the size. If you're in Honolulu area, you're probably around $1,800 on average for a studio or 1-bedroom single apartment, and a 2-bedroom is closer to around $2,000 to $2,500 a month. If you're on areas like North Shore, West Side, or even Kaneohe, it's a little bit cheaper depending on where you live and how much traffic you're going to have. Which brings up another point, which is be mindful of the traffic. Now, it's not as bad as places like New York City, but it's not great. And you want to leave at certain times of day. So for example, if you're going from Honolulu to say Kapolei, you're going to want to leave before 2 o'clock. Otherwise, you're going to have a lot of traffic. Or if you're coming from Kapolei to Honolulu, you're going to want to leave before 7 a.m. Otherwise, you're also going to hit that rush hour traffic. Now, if you're going the opposite directions during those times, there's typically very little traffic and it's quick. You can get to from one side of the island to the other in 30, maybe 40 minutes with no traffic at all. But on a busy weekday, probably maybe an hour, maybe an hour and a half, depending where you're going. Let's talk about education. Specifically, we'll start with children and all the way up to high school, K through 12. First thing to know is that Oahu is district-based, meaning if your address is in a district, then that is the school your child will go to school if they are in the public education system. For example, if you are at this address at this property, you are going to McKinley High School. It doesn't matter if you've been at another high school for however long, you are required to go to that school and no other school will accept you. Now, if you enroll in private education, which can enroll from $15,000 all the way up to $45,000 per year, then you have the option of which school you want to go to, but you also won't have the same conveniences, and as well as transportation to that school will need to be performed by you, the parent, or somebody else. Hawaii does have a really wonderful and great university system. The Hawaii University covers all the campuses across island. So we do have UH Manoa, we have Kapilani Community College, that's my favorite, that's where I went to school. We have West Oahu campus. All of these school systems transfer credits among each other, and you can go to any one as you wish. A lot of people will opt for a community college first because they're paying out-of-state tuition, and then if they've lived here for long enough, then they can claim that in-state residency. But again, it depends on what you're looking for. Is it public, is it private, or is it college? Be mindful of this and reach out to either somebody you know here locally or your real estate agent to make sure that your kids or yourself can go to the school that you want to. Number 7, food and cuisine. Hawaii has some incredible, amazing Asian, Polynesian, Hawaiian style, Japanese, Korean, Chinese. We have a huge array of different varieties of food. Very different than New York though. We're not gonna have a whole lot of Mexican or Spanish food. We're not gonna have a lot of Indian or curries or certain things or pizzas. What we do have is great. Next thing is produce. It is warm here all year long. You can get fresh fruit all year long, locally grown, especially if you go to the farmers markets, which they have one almost every single day of the week other than Sundays. You can get fresh bananas, apple bananas, pineapples, lychee, dragon fruit, tomatoes. There's a lot of really amazing fruit and vegetables that is grown on island, but you have to find them. You got to make sure you're going to the right places. Otherwise, you're going to either spend too much or you're going to end up at the grocery store, which has overripened food that's not as good. But if you know where to go, you can find some of the most amazing foods on island. And I know New Yorkers love coffee, and they have some amazing local coffee shops here on island that grow locally, that source from places like the Big Island, macadamia farms. There's a lot of amazing options, and so you're never going to go without some really great food. I almost forgot, a gallon of milk in Hawaii is $7.49 on average. Now, if you go to Costco, it's way cheaper. However, in New York, it's $2.32 on average. So there is a big difference between a lot of different foods. Number 8, one of my favorite things is the culture and the traditions here. I know a lot of people have a fear of not being respected, a fear of arriving on island and being feel like an outcast. I will tell you that is not the case. I've lived here for now going on 11 years. And here is the truth. If you treat people with respect, if you respect their culture, if you respect their tradition, if you respect the land, the aina, you don't litter, you take care of yourself, you clean up after, you don't overfish, you don't use what you can't eat, people are not going to give you a hard time. And in fact, they're going to appreciate you for doing the right things. And maybe if you do a little bit more than that, you're going to enjoy your time here. And there are so many incredible, amazing traditions and events that you can join. There's the Japanese Cultural Festival. We have an event every year in Chinatown celebrating Chinese New Year. We have Hawaiian festivals every single year. There's a lot of amazing things that you can experience that you won't see anywhere else in the world. Traveling from New York to Honolulu. It is a long flight. You're looking at on average 8 hours, maybe 10 hours, depending on your flight. And you're probably gonna have a layover either in Chicago or somewhere in California, LAX, and getting back to New York is certainly not cheap. You're probably looking at an average of $800 to $1,200 per ticket. If you're going during Christmas, you might spend all the way up to $1,400 for a round trip ticket, especially if you're not flying out of a major airport. These are things that you wanna keep in mind, especially if you're trying to only be here for some parts of the year, that it's going to take you a while and it's going to be a big cost getting back. Lastly is public transportation. One of the benefits of living in Honolulu is we have the bus, which covers the entire island. You can go from Kaneohe to Waianae to North Shore to Honolulu and Waikiki. It will bring you all over. And for $80 a month, you can get an unlimited pass to get on this bus as often as you want. Now, with that being said, it also goes through areas where there's a lot of homeless and will interact with a lot of homeless people on the bus. So something to be aware of, especially if you're planning on your younger kids using it. However, I've never had a problem with it and I found it to be extremely reliable. And we don't have a subway system, but we do have being worked on right now what's called the rail, which will travel from Kapolei all the way to Honolulu. That's not going to be done for another 2 to 5 years, depending on how long it takes. But that is something that by the time you arrive here, whenever it is, you might have access to. And the last thing to know is that we do have Ubers and Lyfts available, more than you will ever need. That's typically how I get around if I'm not driving, and it's extremely reliable. Last thing is respect the island. Respect the pace of the island. It's a lot different than New York. Respect the people and you will very much enjoy your time here. And of course, if you have questions about neighborhoods, where to live, how to work here, what's going on, how much can you afford, please reach out to myself. We would love to help you and see if we could help you find a home here. Aloha.